In the year 2743, humanity had come a long way from its humble beginnings on Earth. Centuries of exploration and diplomacy had allowed humans to rise as one of the most influential species in the galaxy. They were part of the Galactic Council, an alliance of advanced civilizations that governed interstellar relations. While some alien races looked down on humans, dismissing them as newcomers, others respected their determination and adaptability. Jae-ho Kim was chosen by the United Earth Federation to represent humanity at an important meeting on Zeridia Prime, the Council's capital planet. He was known for his calm nature and sharp mind, qualities that made him perfect for dealing with difficult negotiations. With him was Hyrie Park, a skilled strategist who acted as his advisor. Together, they hoped to strengthen humanity's position in the galaxy. The journey to Zeridia Prime took several days aboard a sleek human starship. During the trip, Jae-ho spent hours reviewing reports about the other council members. Some factions within the council were friendly to humanity, but others harbored deep distrust. The Xylorians, led by Ambassador Vrax II, were particularly hostile. They often accused humanity of being reckless and untrustworthy. Jae-ho knew this meeting would be challenging, but he believed diplomacy could prevail. When they arrived on Zeridia Prime, the atmosphere was tense. The council chamber was a vast, circular room filled with representatives from dozens of alien species. Towering screens displayed real-time translations so everyone could understand each other. As Jae-ho and Hyrie entered, they felt the weight of countless eyes upon them. Many of the aliens stared openly, their expressions unreadable behind strange masks or glowing skin. The meeting began with formal greetings, but it quickly turned sour. A representative from the Carvaxians accused humanity of secretly developing forbidden weapons technology. According to the Council's laws, such actions were punishable by severe penalties. Jae-ho listened carefully before responding. "These accusations are baseless," he said firmly. "Humanity has always followed the Council's rules. We seek peace and cooperation, not conflict." His words did little to ease the growing tension. Ambassador Vrax II stood up, his towering frame casting a shadow over the room. His voice boomed through the chamber. "Enough talk. Humanity cannot be trusted. Their very presence here is an insult to true galactic citizens." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Other ambassadors nodded, clearly swayed by Vrax II's fiery rhetoric. Hyrie leaned closer to Jae-ho. "This isn't going well," she whispered. "They're trying to provoke us." Jae-ho nodded slightly, keeping his expression neutral. He knew losing his temper would only make things worse. Vrax II continued his tirade, listing supposed crimes committed by humanity. Each accusation was more outrageous than the last. Finally, he demanded justice, not just for the alleged violations, but for humanity's audacity to join the Council in the first place. "Let them face consequences," he shouted. "Let them feel the wrath of those they've wronged." Before anyone could respond, chaos erupted. Guards loyal to Vrax II stormed into the chamber, seizing Jae-ho without warning. Hyrie tried to intervene, but another group of guards blocked her path. She watched helplessly as Jae-ho was dragged toward a massive energy field at the center of the room. It crackled ominously, its blue light pulsating like a living thing. "No!" Hyrie screamed, struggling against the guards holding her back. "You can't do this. This is barbaric." But her cries went unheard. The rest of the council members sat silently, either too shocked or too afraid to speak out. Jae-ho remained calm even as the guards forced him into the energy field. His face showed no fear, only resolve. "You'll regret this," he said quietly, his voice steady despite the situation. Then the energy surged, engulfing him in blinding light. For a moment, there was silence, and then came the screams. Horrified gasps filled the chamber as Jae-ho's body writhed in agony. The energy burned him alive, reducing him to ash within seconds. When the light faded, nothing remained except a faint outline on the floor where he had stood. Hyrie collapsed to her knees, tears streaming down her face. Her heart shattered as she realized what had just happened. Humanity's finest diplomat, and a good man, had been murdered in cold blood. For a moment, nobody moved. The council members exchanged uneasy glances, unsure how to react. Some looked ashamed, while others appeared indifferent. Rax, too, however, wore a smug grin. He raised his arms triumphantly, addressing the room. Justice has been served. Let this serve as a warning to all who dare defy the council. Finally, someone spoke up, a small, frail-looking ambassador from the Luminari race. This is unacceptable, she stammered. We are better than this. Such brutality has no place among civilized beings. Her words sparked murmurs of agreement, but few dared to challenge Rax 2 directly. Hyrie managed to compose herself enough to demand answers. Why are you doing nothing? She shouted, her voice trembling with anger and grief. How can you sit there and justify this? Is this what your council stands for? Murder? Her questions hung heavy in the air. No one replied. Eventually, the meeting was adjourned, leaving Hyrie alone in the now empty chamber. She knelt beside the scorch mark on the floor, clutching Joe's abandoned datapad. Her mind raced with thoughts of vengeance, sorrow, and disbelief. How could this have happened? Why had anyone stopped it? As she prepared to leave Zeridia Prime, Hyrie vowed to honor Jeho's memory. His death would not be forgotten or forgiven. She carried the horrifying truth back to Earth, knowing full well that it would ignite outrage across the planet. Humanity had been humiliated, betrayed, and attacked. Now, it was time for retribution. On the journey home, Hyrie replayed the events in her mind over and over again. She thought about Jeho's courage, his unwavering belief in diplomacy, and the brutal way his life had ended. Though grief weighed heavily on her, she also felt a burning determination. Humanity had tolerated disrespect for too long. This act of savagery would change everything, and perhaps awaken something long buried within the hearts of her people. Back on Earth, news of Jeho's execution spread like wildfire. Protests erupted in cities around the globe, with millions demanding justice. Leaders convened emergency meetings to discuss their next steps. Everyone agreed on one thing. Humanity would not stand idly by while their dignity was trampled. The fire of vengeance had been lit, and it would burn brighter than ever before. When Hyrie Park returned to Earth, she brought with her not only the devastating news of Jeho Kim's execution, but also a sense of urgency that could not be ignored. Her arrival sent shockwaves through the United Earth Federation, the governing body responsible for humanity's role in galactic affairs. Within hours, leaders from every corner of the planet gathered in an emergency session at the Federation's headquarters in New Seoul. The room was packed with people, politicians, military officers, scientists, and diplomats, all united by a single purpose: deciding how to respond to betrayal they had suffered. Screens displayed live footage of protests across the globe. Crowd chanted slogans like "Justice for Jeho" and "No More Silence." The anger and grief were palpable, even inside the secure walls of the meeting chamber. President Soo-Jin Choi opened the session with a somber tone. "Today, we mourn the loss of one of our brightest stars," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. Jeho Kim represented everything we strive to be as a species: diplomatic, courageous, and hopeful. His death is not just a personal tragedy. It is an attack on all of us. General Min-Soo Lee, commander of Earth's military forces, sat near the front of the room. His sharp eyes scanned the faces around him, noting the mix of sorrow and rage. When it was his turn to speak, he stood up, his imposing figure commanding attention. "We have been patient," he began, his deep voice echoing through the chamber. "For decades, we've tolerated insults and prejudice because we believed in peace. But this act of barbarism proves that patience has its limits." Min-Soo paused, letting his words sink in. Then he continued, his tone growing firmer. "This is not about revenge. It's about survival. If we do nothing, the galaxy will see us as weak. They'll think they can trample over us whenever they please. We must show them that humanity does not bend under pressure. We break those who try to break us." His speech ignited a fire in the room. Some nodded vigorously, while others whispered urgent agreements. President Soo-Jin listened carefully before responding. "I agree that action is necessary," she said. "But what kind of action? Do we strike back immediately, or do we seek diplomatic solutions first?" The debate raged for hours. Some argued for immediate retaliation. suggesting attacks on key Xylorian outposts. Others cautioned against rushing into war, warning that such actions might isolate humanity further. Amidst a heated discussion, one name kept coming up: Project Titan. Project Titan was humanity's most ambitious and secretive military initiative. For years, Earth's top scientists had worked tirelessly to develop advanced weapon systems capable of rivaling even the strongest alien fleets. The project centerpiece was a massive war machine known as Prometheus, designed to serve as both a deterrent and a weapon of last resort. Until now, it had remained classified, hidden away in underground facilities far from prying eyes. Hyrie, still reeling from Jeho's death, found herself drawn into the conversation. She approached Dr. Jiyun Song, the lead scientist behind Project Titan. Jiyun was a brilliant engineer whose work had earned her widespread respect. Despite her quiet demeanor, she exuded confidence when discussing her creations. "Is Prometheus ready?" Hyrie asked bluntly. "Can it fight?" Jiyun hesitated for a moment before answering. "It's close," she admitted. "We've completed the core systems, but there are still some tests we need to run. If we push forward now, we risk deploying something untested." But she trailed off, looking at Hyrie with a mixture of sadness and determination. "If we wait too long, we risk losing the momentum we've built." Hyrie understood the dilemma. Time was of the essence, but so was precision. Humanity couldn't afford to make mistakes, not when the stakes were this high. Together, she and June agreed to fast-track the final stages of development while ensuring safety protocols remained intact. As preparations for war accelerated, public sentiment shifted dramatically. News outlets broadcasted images of Jeho's charred outline on the council floor, accompanied by emotional testimonies from those who had known him. People everywhere shared stories of their own encounters with alien prejudice, fueling a collective desire for justice. Protests grew larger and more organized, with demonstrators calling not just for vengeance but for recognition of humanity's worth. In response, President Suu Kyi addressed the global population in a televised speech. Standing before a backdrop of Earth's blue and green surface, she spoke with quiet strength. "We did not ask for this fight," she said, "but we will not shrink from it either. Our enemies underestimated us, thinking we would crumble under pressure. Instead, they awakened a sleeping giant. From this day forward, humanity will stand tall, unafraid to defend what is ours." Her words resonated deeply, rallying millions to support the cause. Recruitment offices overflowed with volunteers eager to join the military effort. Factories worked around the clock to produce ships, weapons, and supplies. Even civilians pitched in, organizing fundraisers and donating resources to the war effort. Meanwhile, General Minsu oversaw the mobilization of Earth's armed forces. He knew that success depended not just on raw power but on strategy. Working closely with Captain Ji-hoon Ryu, a decorated officer renowned for his tactical brilliance, Minsu devised plans for a series of surgical strikes aimed at crippling the Xylorians' infrastructure without causing unnecessary civilian casualties. Captain Ji-hoon was a man of few words, preferring action over speeches. Yet those who served under him admired his calm leadership and ability to adapt quickly to changing situations. As he reviewed battle simulations aboard the flagship Eclipse, he couldn't help but feel a pang of unease. War was never simple, and the cost of failure would be catastrophic. Still, he reminded himself why they were fighting: for Jeho, for justice, and for the future of humanity. Back in the labs, Dr. June and her team worked tirelessly to prepare Prometheus for deployment. The mecha loomed over them, its metallic form gleaming under harsh lights. Standing over 3 kilometers tall, it resembled a colossus forged from dreams and steel. Its sheer size alone was enough to inspire awe or terror, depending on which side you were on. Inside the control center, Hyrie watched as engineers ran diagnostics on the machine systems. She felt a strange mix of hope and dread. Hope because Prometheus represented humanity's ingenuity and resilience. Dread because unleashing such power carried risks no one could fully predict. Still, she reminded herself of Jeho's sacrifice. If his death could inspire change, if it could force the galaxy to take humanity seriously, then perhaps it wouldn't be in vain. Days turned into weeks as humanity prepared for the inevitable confrontation. Training exercises became routine, with soldiers honing their skills in simulated battles. Diplomats reached out to potential allies among the council members, seeking support, or at least neutrality, in the coming conflict. Propaganda campaigns painted humanity as defenders of justice, framing the Xylorians as aggressors bent on domination. Through it all, Jeho's memory lingered. Memorials sprang up in cities worldwide, featuring holographic projections of his face alongside messages of remembrance. Schools taught lessons about his life and legacy, emphasizing values like courage, integrity, and perseverance. Slowly but surely, humanity transformed its grief into resolve. On the eve of deployment, General Minsu gathered his senior officers for a final briefing. Maps and schematics covered the walls of the command center, outlining targets and strategies. Everyone present knew the gravity of the mission ahead. This wasn't just another skirmish. It was a statement, a declaration that humanity would no longer tolerate being treated as inferior. As Minsu concluded the meeting, he looked each officer in the eye. "Remember why we're doing this," he said firmly. "Not for glory, not for conquest, but for justice. For Jeho, for Earth. Let's make sure they never forget who we are." With those words, Operation Phoenix was set in motion. Humanity's forces launched into space, carried with them the hopes and fears of billions. The galaxy braced itself for what was to come. And somewhere beyond the stars, the Xylorians waited, unaware that their arrogance had awakened a force unlike any they had ever faced. The stage was set. The time for talking was over. Now it was time to fight. Operation Phoenix began with a quiet intensity that belied the chaos it would unleash. Humanity's fleet emerged from hyperspace near Xylorian territory, their ships cloaked in stealth technology, designed to avoid detection until the last possible moment. At the forefront of this armada was the Eclipse, a massive dreadnought commanded by Captain Jihun Ryu. Behind him were dozens of smaller vessels, each carrying soldiers and supplies for what promised to be a brutal campaign. The first phase of the operation focused on crippling the Xylorian supply lines. Key outposts scattered across the galaxy served as hubs for resources, weapons, and reinforcements. Without these facilities, the Xylorian military would struggle to sustain prolonged combat. General Minsu Li had chosen the strategy carefully. It was precise, efficient, and minimized civilian casualties, while delivering a devastating blow to the enemy's capabilities. Captain June stood on the bridge of the Eclipse, his sharp eyes scanning holographic displays that showed the positions of both human forces and Xylorian targets. His crew worked silently, their movements practiced and deliberate. Though tension filled the air, there was also an undercurrent of determination. Everyone aboard understood the stakes. This wasn't just another battle. It was humanity's chance to prove itself, to show the galaxy that Earth's people could fight with skill and purpose. "Begin the assault," Jihun ordered, his voice calm but firm. The Eclipse unleashed its arsenal, sending waves of missiles streaking toward the nearest outpost. Within moments, explosions lit up the darkness of space, turning the once quiet station into a fiery inferno. Secondary blasts followed as fuel reserves ignited, obliterating the facility entirely. The attack caught the Xylorians off guard. They hadn't expected humanity to retaliate so swiftly or so effectively. Panic rippled through their ranks as alarms blared and emergency channels buzzed with frantic messages. By the time they organized a response, several more outposts had been destroyed, leaving gaps in their defenses. Hyrie Park watched the progress unfold from Earth, her heart pounding with a mix of pride and anxiety. She had played a crucial role in planning the operation, working closely with Dr. June Song to ensure that every detail was accounted for. Now, seeing the results firsthand, she felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps humanity truly could stand toe-to-toe with the galaxy's most powerful species. But the war wasn't won yet. As successful as the initial strikes were, the Xylorians weren't going down without a fight. Ambassador Vrax II, still furious over humanity's defiance, rallied his forces and launched counterattacks against the advancing fleet. Massive starships clashed in epic battles, their weapons lighting up the void with bursts of energy. Pilots maneuvered their fighters with incredible skill, dodging enemy fire while launching torpedoes at vulnerable targets. For days, The conflict raged. Casualties mounted on both sides, though humanity's superior tactics gave them a slight edge. Captain Jihoon proved himself a master strategist, anticipating Xylorian moves and exploiting weaknesses in their formations. He often led daring raids deep into enemy territory, destroying critical infrastructure and sowing confusion among the opposition. Despite these victories, the cost of war weighed heavily on everyone involved. Soldiers returned from missions haunted by the horrors they had witnessed. Civilians back on Earth prayed for loved ones serving in the fleet, clinging to whatever scraps of hope they could find. Even Hyrie, who had always believed in humanity's cause, found herself questioning whether the price of justice was too high. One particularly grueling battle took place near a cluster of asteroids known as the Krylos Belt. The Xylorians had set up a hidden base within the rocks, using them as cover to ambush passing ships. When Captain Jihoon discovered the location, he devised a bold plan to infiltrate the base and disable it from within. Leading a small strike team, Jihoon piloted a stealth shuttle through the dense field of debris. The mission was risky. Any wrong move could expose them enemy fire, but failure wasn't an option. If they succeeded, they would deal a crippling blow to the Xylorians' ability to launch surprise attacks. As the shuttle approached the base, Jihoon addressed his team. "Stay sharp," he said, his tone steady despite the danger. "We go in fast, hit hard, and get out alive. Remember why we're here, for Jeho, for Earth, and for every person counting on us." The infiltration went smoothly at first. Using advanced hacking tools, the team bypassed security systems and planted explosives throughout the facility. But as they prepared to leave, they triggered an alarm. Suddenly, the base erupted into chaos, with Xylorian guards converging on their position. Jihoon reacted quickly, ordering his team to split up and create diversions. He stayed behind to cover their retreat, engaging in fierce hand-to-hand combat with pursuing enemies. His training paid off as he dispatched one attacker after another, buying precious time for his comrades to escape. Back on the Eclipse, Lieutenant Eun-Ju Kim monitored the situation anxiously. She had grown close to Jihoon during the campaign, admiring his leadership and courage. When his signal disappeared amidst the fighting, she feared the worst. But then, just as subtly as it had vanished, his transmission returned. "I'm clear," Jihoon reported, his voice strained but resolute. "Detonating charges in 3, 2, 1. A series of deafening explosions rocked the asteroid base, sending chunks of rock hurtling into space. The team regrouped aboard the shuttle and sped away, narrowly avoiding retaliatory fire from Xylorian ships. As they re-entered the safety of the fleet, cheers erupted across the Eclipse. Another victory for humanity. Meanwhile, Ambassador Vrax II grew increasingly desperate. His attempt to rally support from other council members failed miserably. Many alien races refused to side with him, fearing retaliation from humanity. Others openly condemned his actions, calling for reforms within the Galactic Council. Isolated and humiliated, Vrax II turned to drastic measures. He activated a secret weapon, a doomsday device capable of annihilating entire planets. Its primary target? Earth itself. Vrax II intended to use the threat of global destruction to force humanity into submission. But when he broadcast his ultimatum, demanding unconditional surrender, he underestimated humanity's resolve. President Soo-Jin Choi addressed the world once again, her expression grim but unwavering. "Vrax II thinks he can scare us into backing down," she declared. "But he doesn't understand who we are. We don't cower before bullies. We don't give in to threats. Humanity will fight to protect our home, and nothing will stop us." Dr. Jihoon and her team raced to analyze data intercepted from Vrax II's transmission. They identified the device's location, a heavily fortified citadel on Xeraction, the Xylorian homeworld, and devised a plan to neutralize it. Working tirelessly, they developed a virus capable of disabling the weapon's core systems remotely. With time running out, humanity launched a final, all-out assault on Xeraction. The Eclipse led the charge, supported by hundreds of smaller ships and elite ground troops. Among them was Hyrie, determined to see the mission through to the end. For her, this wasn't just about winning a war. It was about honoring Jeo's memory and ensuring his sacrifice meant something. The battle for Ziraction was unlike anything humanity had faced before. The planet's defenses were formidable, with layers of automated turrets, shield generators, and legions of soldiers ready to defend their leader at any cost. Yet even as casualties mounted, humanity pushed forward, driven by a shared sense of purpose. Inside the Citadel, Vrax II waited, confident in his invincibility. He scoffed at reports of the approaching fleet, dismissing them as futile gestures. "Let them come," he sneered. "They'll learn soon enough that resistance is meaningless." But Vrax II didn't count on Prometheus. Humanity's ultimate weapon finally entered the fray, towering over everything around it like a god of vengeance. Piloted remotely by Dr. June and her team, Prometheus unleashed its full power, obliterating enemy defenses and clearing a path for the invasion force. As the tide turned, Captain Jihoon led a strike team, including Hyri, into the Citadel itself. Fighting their way through corridors filled with traps and guards, they reached the central chamber where Vrax II awaited them. The ambassador stood beside the Doomsday device, his hands hovering over its controls. "It's over, Vrax II," Hyri said, stepping forward with her weapon raised. "Surrender now or face the consequences." Vrax II laughed bitterly. "You think you've won? Fine, take me if you must. But know this, your precious Earth will burn anyway." With that, he pressed a button, initiating the device's activation sequence. For a moment, fear gripped everyone in the room. Then Dr. June's voice crackled over their comms. "I've uploaded the virus. Stand by." Seconds later, the device powered down, its ominous hum fading into silence. Defeated and enraged, Vrax II lunged at Hyri, but Jihoon intercepted him, knocking him unconscious with a swift blow. It was done. Humanity had won. As the dust settled, the survivors gathered outside the Citadel, exhausted but triumphant. Hyri looked up at the sky, thinking of Jeho. Though he was gone, his legacy lived on, in the courage of those who fought, in the unity of a species that refused to bow, and in the promise of a brighter future. Humanity had proven itself stronger than anyone imagined, and now the galaxy would never forget it. The fall of Ziraction marked a turning point not just for humanity, but for the entire galaxy. News of Vrax II's capture and the destruction of his Doomsday device spread quickly, reaching even the farthest corners of known space. For some, it was a moment of relief. For others, it was a stark warning. Humanity had proven itself capable of standing against one of the most powerful alien races, a fact that no one could ignore. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted in cities around the world. People poured into streets, waving flags and chanting slogans like "Justice Prevails" and "Earth Unites." Fireworks lit up the night sky, painting it with colors that mirror the hopes swelling in millions of hearts. Yet amidst the joy, there was also reflection. Many remembered Jeho Kim, whose sacrifice had sparked this chain of events. Memorials dedicated to him became gathering places where people paid their respects, lighting candles and leaving flowers. President Soo Jean Choi addressed the global population once again, her tone measured but filled with pride. "Today, we celebrate not just a victory but a new beginning," she said. "We showed the galaxy what humanity is made of: strength, resilience, and an unshakable belief in justice. But let us not forget the cost of this fight. Let us honor those who gave everything by building a better future." Her words resonated deeply. While the war against the Xylorians was over, its aftermath would shape interstellar politics for years to come. The Galactic Council, fractured by internal divisions, struggled to find common ground. Some members praised humanity's actions as necessary and justified, while others condemned them as reckless aggression. Ambassador Vrax II, now imprisoned aboard the Eclipse, remained defiant, refusing to acknowledge defeat or apologize for his crimes. General Min-Soo Lee returned to Earth a hero, hailed for his leadership during Operation Phoenix. Yet despite the accolades, he carried the weight of every life lost under his command. He spent long hours alone in his office, staring at maps and reports, replaying battles in his mind. Though proud of what humanity had achieved, he couldn't shake the feeling that war always came at too high a price. Captain Jihoon Ryu, meanwhile, found solace in routine. After months of relentless combat, he welcomed the quiet days aboard the Eclipse as it journeyed back home. His crew worked together to repair damage sustained during the final assault on Ziraction, their camaraderie stronger than ever. Lieutenant Unju Kim often joined Jihoon on the observation deck, where they watched stars streak past the ship's windows. They rarely spoke, finding comfort simply in each other's presence. Hyrie parked threw herself into work, determined to ensure that humanity's hard-won victories wouldn't be wasted. She collaborated closely with Dr. Jun Song, whose role in disabling the Doomsday device had cemented her status as a national icon. Together, they drafted proposals aimed at restructuring the Galactic Council, advocating for reforms that would prevent similar conflicts in the future. "We need transparency," Hyrie argued during one meeting. "Too many decisions are made behind closed doors, without considering how they affect everyone involved. If the Council wants peace, it has to earn trust, not demand it." Dr. June nodded in agreement. "And technology can help," she added. "Imagine a system where all member species have access to real-time data about resource distribution, trade agreements, and military movements. It would reduce misunderstandings and hold everyone accountable." Their ideas gained traction among Earth's leaders, who saw an opportunity to reshape galactic relations in humanity's favor. President Su Jin announced plans to host a summit, inviting representatives from across the galaxy to discuss these reforms. The move was bold and risky. Some feared it might provoke further hostility from factions still loyal to Vraxtu's ideology. But Su Jin believed diplomacy was the only way forward. As preparations for the summit began, humanity faced another challenge: rebuilding trust within its own ranks. Not everyone agreed with the methods used during Operation Phoenix. Critics accused the United Earth Federation of prioritizing vengeance over morality, pointing to civilian casualties caused by attacks on Xylorian infrastructure. Protesters gathered outside government buildings, holding signs that read "Peace through dialogue" and "No more war crimes." Hyrie understood their concerns but disagreed with their conclusions. "War isn't clean," she told a group of reporters during a press conference. "It leaves scars no matter how careful you try to be. But sometimes action is necessary to stop greater harm. What matters now is learning from our mistakes and ensuring they don't happen again." Her words struck a chord with many, though dissenting voices remained loud. To address these tensions, President Su Jin launched initiatives promoting dialogue between citizens and officials. Town hall meetings were held in major cities, giving ordinary people a chance to voice their opinions directly to leaders. These discussions weren't always easy. Emotions ran high, but they helped bridge gaps between different perspectives. Amidst these efforts, humanity continued to develop advanced technologies inspired by Project Titan. Scientists adapted components from Prometheus to create tools for peaceful purposes, such as terraforming barren planets and providing clean energy solutions. Dr. June spearheaded these projects, driven by a vision of using innovation to improve lives rather than destroy them. "We've shown the galaxy what we can do when pushed to our limits," she said during a televised interview. "Now let's show them what we can achieve when we work together towards something positive." Her optimism proved infectious. Around the globe, communities rallied around programs designed to harness human ingenuity for good. Schools introduced courses focused on engineering, medicine, and environmental science, encouraging young minds to dream big. Artists created murals depicting Prometheus not as a weapon, but as a symbol of potential, a reminder that strength could be used to build instead of break. Yet even as progress unfolded, shadows lingered. Rumors circulated about splinter groups within the Xylorian race, vowing to continue Vraxtu's crusade against humanity. Spies reported whispers of secret alliances forming among disgruntled council members, united by resentment toward Earth's rising influence. General Min-Su kept a close eye on intelligence reports, knowing that complacency could lead to disaster. One evening, as he reviewed classified files in his office, Min-Su received an unexpected visitor, Hyrie. She entered quietly, carrying a folder filled with documents related to the upcoming summit. Despite her calm demeanor, Min-Su noticed lines of fatigue etched into her face. He gestured for her to sit. "You look tired," he said gently. "Are you sleeping at all?" She smiled faintly. "Not much," she admitted. There's so much to do before the summit. Every decision feels like it could make or break everything we've fought for. Min-Su leaned back in his chair, studying her thoughtfully. You remind me of Jeho, he said after a pause. He had that same fire in his eyes. The belief that things could get better if we worked hard enough. Don't lose sight of why you're doing this. Hyrie nodded, blinking away tears. I won't, she promised. But sometimes I wonder, was it worth it? All the pain, all the loss. Min-Su sighed heavily. War never answers questions. It only raises more. What matters is what we do next. We owe it to Jeho and to everyone who sacrificed to keep moving forward. His words stayed with Hyrie long after she left his office. That night, she stood on her balcony, gazing at the stars. Somewhere out there beyond the reaches of Earth's atmosphere lay countless worlds waiting to connect or collide with humanity. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but Hyrie felt a renewed sense of purpose. Humanity had weathered its darkest hour and emerged stronger than ever. Now it was time to shine. The following weeks passed in a blur of activity. Delegates from dozens of alien species arrived on Earth, eager or reluctant, to participate in the historic summit. Security measures were tight, with patrols stationed throughout host cities to prevent incidents. Despite occasional protests, the event proceeded smoothly, thanks largely to meticulous planning by Hyrie and her team. On the first day of the summit, President Su-Jin delivered a keynote speech outlining humanity's vision for the future. Standing before an audience of diverse beings, she emphasized themes of cooperation, equality, and mutual respect. Her message was clear. Humanity sought not domination but partnership. Our differences should unite us, not divide us, she concluded. Together, we can create a galaxy where no one fears oppression or injustice. Let us begin today. Applause echoed through the chamber, though not everyone clapped enthusiastically. Skeptical glances passed between certain delegates, hinting at lingering doubts. Still, seeds of change had been planted. Conversations sparked between unlikely allies, laying foundations for collaboration that might endure long after the summit ended. As the days unfolded, Hyrie found herself engaged in endless debates, negotiations, and compromises. Each agreement signed felt like a small victory, a step closer to realizing Jeho's dream of true galactic unity. Though challenges remained, she took comfort in knowing that humanity wasn't walking this path alone anymore. Allies existed among the stars, ready to support Earth's vision of a brighter tomorrow. And so, the tide turned not just for humanity, but for the galaxy itself. From ashes rose hope, tempered by lessons learned and bonds forged. The story of Jeho Kim's sacrifice lived on, inspiring generations to strive for justice, peace, and understanding. In the end, perhaps that was the greatest triumph of all. The summit marked the beginning of a new chapter for humanity and the galaxy. For the first time in history, Earth's people stood as equals among the stars, not through fear or force, but through determination and vision. The reforms proposed by President Su-Jin Choi and her team gained traction, reshaping the Galactic Council into something more inclusive and transparent. Yet change did not come easily. Old prejudices lingered and distrust simmered beneath the surface, threatening to undo the fragile progress achieved. In the months following the summit, humanity worked tirelessly to implement its proposals. A central database was established, allowing all council members access to critical information about resource allocation, trade agreements, and military movements. This system aimed to reduce misunderstandings and hold everyone accountable. Dr. Jun Song played a key role in designing the technology, ensuring it was secure yet accessible. Her efforts earned her praise from many alien delegates, though skeptics questioned whether such openness could truly prevent future conflicts. Hyrie Park remained at the forefront of diplomatic efforts, traveling across the galaxy to meet with leaders who had once dismissed humanity as inferior. She approached each meeting with patience and respect, determined to build bridges rather than walls. Her calm demeanor and sharp intellect won over even the most reluctant opponents, proving that diplomacy could achieve what war never could. Yet not everyone welcomed these changes. Ambassador Vraxtu's imprisonment had left a power vacuum within the Xylorian race, and factions loyal to his ideology began plotting revenge. Underground networks spread propaganda accusing humanity of tyranny, claiming that Earth sought to dominate the galaxy under the guise of reform. These whispers found fertile ground among species who still harbor resentment toward humans, fueling tensions that threatened to boil over. General Min-Su Lee kept a vigilant eye on these developments, knowing that peace was often fragile. He oversaw the deployment of Earth's fleet to strategic locations throughout the galaxy, ensuring they were ready to respond to any threat. Though some criticized the show of strength as provocative, Min-Su argued that preparedness was essential. "We've shown we can fight," he told his officers during a briefing. "Now we must show we can defend." Captain Ji-hoon Ryu returned to active duty after a brief leave, commanding patrols near contested regions. His experience during Operation Phoenix made him invaluable in maintaining stability, though he carried the weight of past battles in his heart. Lieutenant Eun-ju Kim noticed subtle changes in him, longer silences, deeper frowns, but she knew better than to push him talk. Instead, she offered quiet support, sharing moments of camaraderie aboard the Eclipse. Back on Earth, life slowly returned to normal, or at least as close to normal as possible after such monumental events. Memorials dedicated to Jae-ho Kim became permanent fixtures in cities worldwide, serving as reminders of the cost of justice. Schools incorporated lessons about his life and legacy into their curriculums, teaching children values like courage, integrity, and perseverance. Artists created works inspired by his sacrifice, from sculptures to songs, celebrating humanity's resilience. President Soo Jin-choi focused on rebuilding trust within her own ranks, addressing concerns raised by critics of Operation Phoenix. Town hall meetings continued, providing platforms for citizens to voice grievances and suggest improvements. These discussions weren't always easy. Emotions ran high, but they fostered a sense of unity. People realized that while opinions might differ, everyone shared a common goal: a better future. Meanwhile, Project Titan evolved beyond its original purpose. Scientists adapted components from Prometheus to develop tools for peaceful endeavors, such as terraforming barren planets and providing clean energy solutions. Dr. Jiun Song led these initiatives, driven by a vision of using innovation to improve lives rather than destroy them. Under her guidance, humanity became synonymous with progress, earning admiration from allies and rivals alike. Yet even as advancements flourished, shadows loomed. Rumors of Xylorian splinter groups persisted, growing louder with each passing day. Spies reported sightings of secret bases hidden in remote corners of the galaxy, where weapons were being stockpiled and plans devised. General Min-Su monitored these threats closely, coordinating with intelligence agencies to track down leads. He knew that complacency could lead to disaster, and he refused to let humanity fall victim to another betrayal. One evening, as Min-Su reviewed classified files in his office, he received an urgent message from Hai-Ri. She sounded breathless, her voice tinged with urgency. "We have a problem," she said without preamble. "A convoy carrying humanitarian supplies to a neutral planet has gone missing. Intelligence suggests it may have been intercepted by rogue Xylorians." Min-Su frowned, leaning forward in his chair. "Do we know their location?" "Not exactly," Hai-Ri replied, "but there are traces leading toward the Krylos Belt, the same area where you destroyed their base during Operation Phoenix." Memories of that mission flooded back, sending a shiver down Min-Su's spine. The Krylos Belt was treacherous territory, filled with asteroids and debris that made navigation difficult. If the rogue Xylorians had set up shop there again, retrieving the convoy would be no small feat. "I'll send Captain Ji-hoon and a team immediately," Min-Su said firmly. "They're experienced enough to handle this." Within hours, the Eclipse launched toward the Krylos Belt, accompanied by several smaller ships. Captain Ji-hoon briefed his crew en route, emphasizing caution. "This isn't just about getting our supplies back," he reminded them. "It's about showing the galaxy that humanity stands by its commitments, even when it's hard." As the fleet approached the asteroid field, sensors detected faint energy signatures emanating from deep within the rocks. Ji-hoon ordered stealth protocols activated, guiding the ships carefully through narrow passages until they reached the source of the signal. What they found chilled them to the bone: a makeshift base, heavily fortified and guarded by armed Xylorians. Ji-hoon formulated a plan quickly. Using cloak shuttles, He dispatched strike teams to infiltrate the base and locate the captured convoy. Among those chosen for the mission was Lieutenant Unju, whose expertise in covert operations proved invaluable. Together, they navigated labyrinthine corridors, disabling security systems and taking out guards silently. Inside the detention area, they discovered the convoy crew alive but shaken. The Xylorians had interrogated them harshly, seeking information about Earth's defenses. When asked why they hadn't resisted, one of the captives, a young engineer named Sung Hyun, spoke bitterly. "What choice did we have? They outnumbered us 10-1. Ji-hoon placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You held on. That's what matters. Now let's get you home." The extraction went smoothly until the final moments, when alarms blared throughout the base. Reinforcements poured in, forcing the strike team to fight their way out. Bullets ricocheted off walls as explosions rocked the facility, sending chunks of rock tumbling into space. Despite the chaos, Ji-hoon kept his cool, directing his team with precision. Back aboard the Eclipse, the rescued crew expressed gratitude mingled with guilt. They felt they had failed humanity by surrendering so easily. But Ji-hoon reassured them. "Surviving is victory," he said simply. "We'll learn from this and do better next time." News of the successful rescue reached Earth quickly, boosting morale among citizens and leaders alike. President Soo-jin addressed the public, praising the bravery of those involved. "This proves that humanity doesn't abandon its own," she declared. "No matter how dark things get, we will always stand together." Yet challenges remained. Rogue Xylorians continued to pose a threat, their hatred for humanity burning brighter than ever. General Min-soo urged caution, reminding everyone that vigilance was key. "Peace isn't given, it's earned," he said during a press conference, "and we must be ready to defend it." Despite these obstacles, hope endured. Humanity had proven itself capable of rising above adversity, forging alliances and inspiring change. The reforms within the Galactic Council took root, fostering collaboration between species that once viewed each other as enemies. Slowly but surely, the galaxy began to heal. For Hyrie, Jeho's memory lived on in every step forward. She carried his ideals in her heart, channeling them into actions that brought people closer. Though grief still lingered, she found solace in knowing that his sacrifice had not been in vain. Humanity had learned from its mistakes and emerged stronger because of them. As stars twinkled in the night sky, Hyrie stood on a balcony overlooking the city. Somewhere out there lay countless worlds waiting to connect or collide with humanity. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she felt a renewed sense of purpose. Humanity had weathered its darkest hour and emerged stronger than ever. Now it was time to shine. And so, the new order took shape, not perfect but hopeful. From ashes rose a galaxy united by shared dreams of peace and understanding. In the end, perhaps that was the greatest triumph of all. Years passed since the fall of Rax II and the end of Operation Phoenix. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Humanity, once seen as an upstart species clinging to survival, now stood tall among the stars. Their rise had not been without cost, lives lost, scars etched into memory, but it had also brought growth. Earth's people had learned to balance strength with wisdom, proving that justice did not always require vengeance. The reforms within the Galactic Council reshaped interstellar relations. Transparency became the cornerstone of decision-making, with all member species granted access to share data about trade, resources, and military movements. Disputes were resolved through dialogue rather than force, though tensions still flared occasionally. Humanity's role as a mediator earned respect from many. Though some factions remained wary, their distrust rooted in centuries of prejudice. Hyrie Park continued her work as Earth's ambassador to the Council, embodying the ideals Jeho Kim had championed during his lifetime. She navigated complex negotiations with patience and skill, ensuring humanity's voice was heard loud and clear. Her presence at the Council table symbolized resilience, a reminder of how far humanity had come. Yet Hyrie never forgot why she fought so fiercely for peace. Every time she looked at the holographic image of Jeho displayed in her office, she remembered the price of betrayal and the promise of redemption. General Min-soo Lee retired from active duty after decades of service. His memoirs, titled Through Fire and Stars, chronicle humanity's journey from Earth's humble beginnings to its place among the galaxy's elite. In interviews, he spoke candidly about the burdens of leadership and the lessons learned from war. Strength isn't measured by how many battles you win, he often said. It's measured by what you build afterward. Though officially retired, Min Su remained a trusted advisor to younger officers, passing on wisdom gained through experience. Dr. June Song dedicated herself to advancing peaceful technologies, inspired by the potential of Project Titan. Under her guidance, humanity developed tools that improved lives across the galaxy. From terraforming barren planets to creating sustainable energy sources, these innovations demonstrated Earth's commitment to progress over destruction. Dr. June's name became synonymous with hope, earning admiration even from former adversaries. When asked about her motivations, she smiled softly. We've already shown we can destroy. Now, let's show we can create. Captain Jihoon Ryu returned to civilian life after years of commanding starships. He settled near New Seoul, where he opened a small training academy for aspiring pilots. Students flocked to learn from the legendary captain, drawn by tales of his bravery during Operation Phoenix. Despite his quiet demeanor, Jihoon inspired loyalty and respect, teaching not just tactics but values like teamwork and integrity. Lieutenant Eun-ju Kim joined him as an instructor, their partnership extending beyond the battlefield into mentorship. Meanwhile, rogue Xylorians continue to haunt the edges of civilized space. Though their numbers dwindled, their hatred burned as fiercely as ever. Hidden bases dotted remote regions, launching sporadic attacks against supply convoys and neutral colonies. General Min Su kept a close watch on these threats, deploying patrols to deter aggression. Humanity refused to let fear dictate its actions, choosing instead to protect allies and uphold promises made during the summit. Despite lingering dangers, signs of unity emerged. Species once divided by conflict began working together on joint projects, pooling knowledge and resources for mutual benefit. Scientists collaborated on medical breakthroughs, while artists exchanged cultural traditions that enriched understanding between worlds. These efforts weren't perfect, misunderstandings still arose, but they represented progress. Slowly but surely, the galaxy grew closer. Back on Earth, monuments to Jae-ho Kim served as reminders of humanity's journey. Schools taught lessons about his life and legacy, emphasizing courage, diplomacy, and perseverance. Memorials featured holograms of his face alongside messages of remembrance, inspiring future generations to strive for justice. Children played games imagining themselves as heroes like Jae-ho, dreaming of adventures among the stars. Yet whispers of dissent lingered beneath the surface. Some alien races viewed humanity's rise with suspicion, accusing Earth of arrogance. They pointed to Prometheus as evidence of unchecked power, ignoring its role in protecting innocent lives. Others argued that reforms favored humanity too heavily, neglecting smaller species struggling to adapt. While most council members supported the new order, factions resistant to change plotted quietly, waiting for opportunities to challenge Earth's influence. President Soo Jin-choi addressed these concerns during her final term in office. No system is perfect, she acknowledged. But perfection isn't our goal, it's improvement. We must keep listening, learning, and adapting if we want this galaxy to thrive. Her words resonated deeply, reminding everyone that unity required effort from all sides. As time went on, humanity's legacy solidified. Stories of Operation Phoenix became legend, recounted in books, films, and songs. Some portrayed humanity as conquerors, while others celebrated them as defenders of justice. Both narratives existed side by side, reflecting the complexity of history. What mattered most was how humanity chose to move forward, not bound by past mistakes but guided by lessons learned. One evening, Hyrie stood on a balcony overlooking Earth's gleaming cities. Lights twinkled like stars, casting a warm glow over streets filled with laughter and life. She thought about Jae-ho and all those who had sacrificed everything for this moment. Tears welled in her eyes, but they weren't born of sorrow. They were tears of pride. Humanity had proven itself capable of greatness, rising above hatred and fear to forge connections that transcended differences. Somewhere beyond the atmosphere, stars stretched endlessly across the void. Each one represented a world waiting to connect or collide. With humanity, the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but Hyrie felt hopeful. Earth's people had faced their darkest hour and emerged stronger because of it. They had shown the galaxy what it meant to stand united, not just as individuals, but as a species determined to leave a positive mark on the universe. And so, humanity's story continued. It wasn't a tale of conquest or domination, but of resilience and renewal. From ashes rose a galaxy united by shared dreams of peace and understanding. In the end, perhaps that was the greatest triumph of all. Fire had forged humanity's spirit, burning away doubts and fears until only strength remained. But fire also illuminated paths forward, lighting the way toward a brighter future. As long as humans carried the flame of hope within them, they would never stop reaching for the stars.